Motorsports cavalcade in the 11W car. Rebel Jackson Jr. out of Erie in Washington. And starting inside of row number 4, this zoomy-looking piece here, the 22W car of Dan Hayes. Hayes is also out of the Great Northwest, Issaquah, Washington. And from New York State, where these cars are immensely popular, Pat Albold inside row number 5. And we also welcome to our announce team here in American Sports Cavalcade, Mr. Ralph Shaheen. Ralph?
Thanks, Steve, and thanks for inviting me out here to Phoenix for the Copper World. You know, I love these super modifieds. As you can see, they're an amazing-looking piece of machinery, but they're nothing like what Jimmy Sills normally drives. How do you get accustomed to this after driving midgets and sprint cars?
Well, they are totally different, and I haven't really had a loose condition in these cars. They've had the car pretty nice for me, but they say you can't drive these things at all loose, and so I kind of keep an eye on it and make sure I don't get into trouble. But I only run these once a year, but how could you pass up a wild ride like this? So I got to make this race every year.
Attitude has a lot to do with making one of these things go fast, and I think you can tell Jimmy Sills has the right one. Now let's go to Brock Yates.
Well, Ralph, I'm with another member of the Hamilton family, a little more senior member than Davey up on the pole. Kenny, you got to be proud of the kid, and you got to feel good about your chances.
Yeah, I'm really proud of David. He's done a tremendous job here at Phoenix every year. That's just fun to be in here racing with him. Hopefully today we can finish up there close to him somewhere.
The racetrack seems to be in perfect condition, so you guys ought to have a great day of racing.
The track is ideal. They've done a tremendous job of keeping clean and prepared, so it should be great for everyone.
Best of luck, Kenny.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Ralph?
Horsepower is the name of the game in super modifieds, and his for Wally Pancratz comes out of Big Keith Black. Can you use all of that, or you got to be patient?
Well, you got to be patient at the start because the cars are very sensitive to heat in the tires, and the car has to be balanced. But once we get the everything balanced out and feel secure, then you can really leg it and use all the horsepower that has to offer.
And that's where Wally Pankratz's big right foot comes in action.
Indeed. Outside row number 9, an interesting combination from Pennsylvania, the 3U car of John Heidenreich. This is Dodge powered. And John, with a thumbs up for the race and the beautiful Phoenix weather, Bruce.
Steve, here's a wild one on the inside of row 12. When I'm talking about the driver, Dennis Menacini, old pal of mine from Reno, Nevada. He's in an interesting car, the only mid-engine automobile on the field. We'll talk about more of that as we go along.
And as we bump start these cars, get ready for 25 miles, 25 laps here at TIR. Remember the words of Jimmy Sills. You don't want to drive one of these things loose. You'll see what we mean when we come back.
The field's rolling, warming up the tires, getting the oil pressure and temperature up to par as we get ready to go for 25 of the wildest laps you'll ever see. The 17th annual Copper Classic Super Modified race about to get underway, Steve.
24 cars for 25 laps. Davey Hamilton on the pole by a full 4 miles an hour. Scott Backman looking to pick up the pace a bit. Rebel Jackson Jr., a guy always capable of winning here. The big mile doesn't intimidate him one bit. And Brock, as race cars go, these are fairly rare. There's under 200 of them all over the country, and they're primarily located in the great Northwest and around Washington, as you probably heard from the hometowns of some of the drivers, and up in the Northeast, Oswego Speedway, where they're wildly popular.
That's right.
But, all in all, there's not everybody building one of these.
No, they're not. The West Coast cars tend to be a little more radical than the East Coast cars because they permit aluminum blocks. The East Coast cars are gone to iron blocks to keep costs down. But as a group of race cars, either East or West, apparently there's an effort on now to try to make the rules uniform so everybody can race together, which will be great.
That's right. And it's been a huge problem because you've got 3 different associations probably represented here over the years with everybody doing things a little bit differently. But I'll tell you, what makes for a wild visual show, as Brock found out.
You're talking about a run with your brung class. Think about the super modifieds. Mostly the West Coast cars that are in here at the Copper Classic. These are really interesting pieces. Basically, no rules. No minimum weight. No engine displacement limit. Most of these vehicles carry big block Chevys up to 480 inches. They run on alcohol. No superchargers allowed, but other than that, they're wide open free. Big offset on these cars. Notice most of the weight on the left side, engine way over on the left side, about a 70 to 30 weight bias to the left. Big track limitations here, 85 inches on the track. That's to keep these guys from making them so wide nobody can pass. Got a wing rule on them. But other than that, a super modified is really an unlimited class of race cars and really, really fast.
Yeah, that pesky wing roll. You can't have more square inches total on the car than a two-car garage door. I mean, that is really restricted.
Oh, it's tough. Yeah, no question about that. There's that rear engine car Dennis Menacini's bringing up the back, but up front, the man who really controls the destiny of this whole race is Davey Hamilton. He is so quick and so experienced with these cars. He is a tough man to beat. Remember last year he lost the coil wire, started on the pole, but fell out early. I don't think that's going to happen again this year.
And Scott Backman starting on the outside of the front row. Overnight, they hope they have found some more power to make up that 4-mile-an-hour difference. Side by side, they go into turn number 1. Backman almost collected the rear end of Hamilton's car and wisely gave it some right rudder. Ooh, and there's problems right in the middle of the pack. 2 cars involved. That is Jimmy Sills in the wildest, craziest race car slide I have ever seen. The heavy side goes to the bottom.
Oh, boy. 70-30 weight distribution. There it is. We talked about it. It looks like Jimmy's all right, thankfully, but he is out of the race, I would imagine. Unless they can flop that thing back on its wheels. I don't know. Steve may not be hurt.
He has to be careful the way he gets out. It might fall on him. All right. What happens here, Brock?
Oh, that's Art Bignoni up there in the number 14. You see, he gets loose in the yellow car, tries to collect it, and then overcorrects, I guess, and steers right down into Jimmy Sills, who's on the inside trying to get underneath him. And now he tips Sills up on his left wheel, and he does this kind of dance down the inside of the racetrack while Bignoni gets into the fence on the inside. Well, look at that. Have you ever seen a race car balancing act like that before?
Oh, no, this is right out of a Joey Chipwood show. Unbelievable. It was Jimmy Sills who said, don't want to drive him loose. Well, that's what happened. That car got loose.
Well, there's Art. He's out of the car. Looks like it's finished for the day, though. Pretty well bent up on the left side. And unfortunately, finished before we really get started. Remember now, the caution laps don't count. Big question, can they flop Sills' car back on its wheels and get it started? We'll find out right after this.
Well, Jimmy Sills did not get a lot of seat time in this super modified car here at Phoenix. We're back, and this was just a few moments ago as the hook came from the 5U car. Ralph, talk to him.
Jimmy, you all right? What happened?
Well, that was a wild ride. You know, we were talking about coming here for a wild ride. Well, that was a little over the hill, but there was a yellow car got loose up in front of me, and I saw him twitch a couple times, and so I dropped to the bottom to go by him, and as soon as I dropped down, he lost it, and he got down underneath my right rear wheel, and he tipped me up on 2 wheels, and it just skidded down on its side down here. And I kept waiting for it to turn over, but it stayed up there. So it's actually the car ain't hurt too bad. We ground through the headers on the side and the valve cover. We could go race it.
Jimmy Sills ready to go racing once again.
If it weren't for that rear wing propping it up, it probably would have fallen over right on the roll cage in Jimmy's hat. The field is circulating around. A lap was not completed, so we're back to 0 here, a complete restart. Now, remember that car we called White Original, the only one like it here? Earlier, Brock had a chance to take this look at it.
Almost one of the best pals I got in this business. Dennis Menacini, one of the best super modified drivers in the business, but more than that, a veteran of the 1979 Cannonball, where we had a whole lot of fun. But Dennis, I'll tell you what, you told me about this race car, but this is one wild piece.
Yeah, and you can imagine how wild it was in 1979. That's when I built it. It's a Bill Hite car, and I received the prints. I first seen a copy of the prints in 1976 and received a copy of this car of the prints in 1978. And had it just about completed in 79 when we ran the Cannonball.
And then they banned the car because of what?
Well, it was just they felt a little too radical, I guess. Bottom line was it was just a little too quick for its time, and it's because it still keeps up today. And I mean, how many years ago? We had a 12, 15 years ago?
Well, now you got a rear engine piece here, and I thought rear engine super modifieds were illegal.
Yeah, the reason they were illegal is because of what you're looking at right now. Basically, it was one of the only rear engine cars that really hooked up and went fast.
So this thing has got a lot of ground effects. I noticed everything's really offset to the left. So you got a weight bias over here on the left that's really wild.
We have got more offset in this car than any car here. The motor sits about 28 inches off the chassis center line, and if you notice, the motor sits in the car backwards. It is driven by a transfer case over to the rear end, and that
like a Formula One car, really, basically. So a little off. Okay, now I know you had some problems in practice, but it was minor. You got it fixed up. They're going to let you start scratch at the back tomorrow. Is that right?
We're going to start in the rear tomorrow, and because we had a little bit of problems. We got a 15-cent dowel pin came out of the motor and went through, and lock up the oil pump and also the fuel pump. So we'll be starting in the rear tomorrow, but I think that's what they come here for, to see some passing, isn't it?
You're going to pass some people tomorrow.
I think tomorrow's a pass day, yeah.
All right. Dennis Mancini.
Well, tomorrow is today, and in that short, about a half a lap, Dennis did indeed pass 4 cars coming from the back. He should be fun to watch.
But it was all for naught because they realigned it back under the starting grid. So here comes Davey Hamilton one more time. The race is on.
Davey Hamilton with a better jump this time over Scott Backman. Backman kept him right along his side on that opening start, but not this time. Jeff Helton in the 78 car. Whoa, and we got more trouble. This time it's John Heidenreich, the 3U car, and he took a pretty good tumble. Let's hope he's okay in there. These are pretty stout cars, but he got right up on the roll bar.
Looks like it happened a little bit earlier in the center of turn 2. Here he is sideways in the middle of turn 2. And he gets it down there in an apron, and that weight bias once again worked against him this time because it just flopped that car up on its roof, and it slides down the racetrack on its roll cage.
And again, like a wing sprint car accident, the airfoil device did absorb a certain amount of the shock, not as much as on an outlaw car, but it didn't hurt him any.
Right. Thank God for roll cages. As we red flag the race, they're going to take the time to clear up this racetrack because I'm sure there's some debris on it, so everybody's going to come to a stop. Had 2 attempts at a start here, Steve. It's going to take some time. Oh, good. Heidenreich's okay. That's the best news we got about that crash.
And good news for the crews in these cars in that they've idled around this racetrack quite a few times and had a couple of false starts. The drivers will be able to get out of their cars, and the cars can be refueled. We're going to take a quick break so you can refuel.
Well, let's hope 3 times a charm here as we attempt for the 3rd time to get this 25-lap super modified race underway here at the Copper Classic. This time they'll try a single file. But first, let's go to John Heidenreich with Ralph.
John, what happened?
Well, I'll tell you, it's the first time in a super modified. It was a real good car and didn't have many laps in it. Wally Pancratz and Jimmy Sills both tried to tell me how the left side bias weight was on these cars, and they're not forgiving if you get the back end out from under you. And I'd made up my mind to go take it easy and pace myself and wait for the end, but there was a big hole going into one, and a lot of guys were real slow, so I turned it to come down to the bottom to get under a guy, and about the time I picked the throttle up, boy, he come down a little bit and got on the brakes, and I just had nowhere to go. The back end came out from under. I got on the brake a little bit, and it just kicked, and I just couldn't hold it.
Before it's over, a tape of this show may be a primer on how not to drive a super modified car. We're going green again. Cross your fingers.
Well, here we go. We're down into turn 1. Hamilton's in turn 1. Let's see if he can off turn 1, not into turn 2, headed for the dog leg. Let's see if he can make it all the way around. Davey's doing fine. It's the guys behind him that we got to worry about.
Davey doesn't want anything to do with the guys behind him. All right, we got a great battle here for the 2nd position. That's number 76, Jeff Helton, challenging Scott Backman, who started outside of the front row, and they're having a heck of a side-by-side duel right there for 2nd place.
Well, that's an example of how these cars will hook up. As John Heidenreich said, you don't want to try to slide them, but I'll tell you what, when they are well-balanced and hooked up, they do run. That is our man, Dennis Mancini, back there in that mid-engine car. Ooh. And there's smoke already out of that thing.
I think they got some motor problems, Brock.
Well, the problem is, of course, you can't see anything because the engine's at back, so let's hope he sees what the problem is.
Or hopefully he can get a sign from his crew down on the wall, but it is really smoke. Maybe it's a tire rubbing on something.
Hard to say, but who's to know?
It's not slowing him down much.
No, he's running up through the field like you said. But I think we're going to see a yellow. Yes, yellow's out. And it could be because Mancini's dropping oil. I'm not sure what it is.
Well, here's one car that's out of the race. That's the 14W machine of Axel Walker. He's retiring. He was leaking oil also. So it might have been a situation where USAC officials said, wait a minute, we just got too many leakers out there considering what we've already seen. And they have been waving the black flag at old Dennis, but Dennis doesn't see it. Dennis is blind on that side.
I don't know what's going on. He's apparently not coming in. And I'm sure that the USAC officials are plenty upset about it. In fact, I can see him conferring right down along pit road right now.
All right, as Brock heads over there, you get a great look at the open tube axle, the spot brake, and the quick change on Dennis's car, which is also being covered with oil. So Dennis continues to idle around. At least he's down low on the racetrack. The safety crews are out putting some pre-sweep down to try to absorb as much as they possibly can to make it safer. In fact, let's again go to Brock.
Well, after uncounted spins, crashes, red flags, yellow flags, oil downs, and you name it. We now have 4 laps in the super modified race, and USAC's starting to get a little tired of this. They have cut the distance, we just got word, from 25 laps to 15 laps. So with 4 laps completed, that means we got 11 more to go, and who knows how long that's going to take.
And who knows how they line them up. They might do it out in the desert where the sand can soak up all the oil. All right, let's go down to Ralph.
When you look at a super modified, you wouldn't think there's any similarities between this, an Indy car, and a Formula One car. Well, there is one similarity in Davey Hamilton's car. It's a Momo steering wheel, a very famous steering wheel maker from Italy who does all the steering wheels for the top IndyCar and Formula One drivers. Davey, you're not going left and right. You're just going left. Why a Momo?
Well, I want to go IndyCar race, and I figured this is a good place to get started right here with the steering wheel, and it actually fits in this car quite well. It's real comfortable in these super modifieds.
Now, your crew is making some changes to the left rear and also to the left front. What are you doing and why?
Well, we're tightening the car up just a little bit. They dropped some oil on the racetrack here, and we're anticipating the track being just a little bit slicker than it was when we first started this race, and we're not going to gamble and put a little weight in the car just to make sure it stays good and tight.
Davey Hamilton getting set to go back out.
What a bright, articulate young man. And speaking of articulation, USAC is having a chat with Dennis Mancini.
Big time, you oiled the racetrack down. When they gave you the yellow, you were out about ran into the back of somebody and went around 2 more times oiling it. The racetrack was ruined. Pardon? I didn't see it. I'm so Dennis, sir, you are a race car driver, and you're supposed to be able to see inside of here. We have Flagman up there, and he has yellow, red, green, and checkered. You got to see it. That's your responsibility. I'm sorry. Well, you sure put a hose into this whole day, mister. Big time. Well, I'm sorry. I didn't see it.
Uh-oh, Dennis in big trouble with the USAC guys. But right now, let's go to Ralph with Scott Backman.
Scott, how's your car running?
Today it's running pretty good, but the track's really loosened up from yesterday, so we've been fighting rear end that's been trying to come around. So other than that, we've made a few adjustments, and hopefully it'll come back to me.
Dealing with the car trying to move around like that, how do you drive it from the inside with all that weight up front if that rear end's trying to come around on you?
Well, you really got to feather it coming off the corner. You can't just mash it like we were doing when we were qualifying yesterday. It's more of a finesse type of deal, and you're just going to have to see if you can get to the front. Everybody looks to be a little loose, and now with the oil on the track, it's probably going to be a lot looser.
Let's see who Brock is caught up with.
Well, Brock, I think the fat lady sung.
That lady did sing. Is that
Oh, the fat lady was singing, I guess. I didn't know anything was happening. The motor seemed to run fine and everything, but somewhere we acquired an oil leak.
And the USAC guys are yelling at it.
Yeah, I don't think I'm their favorite driver today, but I didn't know it. I didn't see it. If I would have seen it, I would have definitely pulled down low and come on in. But there's a lot of hectic stuff going way back in the pack. But
Car was running good until you started to lose oil.
oh yeah, it was there. It was definitely there. It was fast. It's one of those deals.
We'll see you soon. Well, I know you.
Fun. Thanks, Brock.
Okay. Dennis Mancini out for the day.
Well, it's not like Mad Dog was the only car out there leaking oil. Here's Ralph.
High-octane racing fuel being poured into this car of Rebel Jackson's as he casually sits atop. How much fuel are you going to need to finish this thing, Rebel?
The way it's going, I may need another 50 gallons. We only carry 36 on this thing. They stop for any more, though we'll have to dump in another 15.
Now, you've been spending a lot of time starting and restarting this event. How does it mess you up mentally?
We're just getting some real good practice at some starts right now. You know, it just kind of gets you out of your deal. You get all jacked up and ready to go racing, and you get 2 or 3 starts like this. And, you know, once we get the green flag again, we'll all go right back to racing hard, but it's kind of discouraging right now.
All the alcohol poured into the car, and Rebel Jackson set to get back at it.
If you came on board today looking for close racing competition, we apologize. But if you're looking for a giggle or two, this is about one of the best afternoons in a long time. Davey Hamilton, Jeff Elton, Rebel Jackson Jr., you saw him. They just want to get this thing over with. Ralph, where are you?
Dan Hayes is the driver of the number 22 Hannibal Racing entry. Now, you're teamed up with Rebel Jackson. Do you guys go at the same setup, or do you kind of help each other out a little bit?
We're pretty close to the same setup, Ralph, but it's we each drive a little bit different, so we tweak just the crossweight or the front wing is a little bit different.
Have you had a chance to talk to him in this down period? Have you made some changes to your car?
Yeah, we both came to the same prediction. It's loose out there, and we both had to tighten our cars up, so hopefully we'll get a little bit better going here pretty quick.
Dan Hayes getting set to climb back in behind the wheel of the number 22.
Okay, folks, stay with us for yet another restart, and I'll bet it doesn't include Dennis Mancini.
Well, we're now about to attempt to run out the final 11 laps of the Super Modified race here at the Copper Classic. I don't know, Steve Evans. we're now running pretty well. The cars are going around the racetrack in pretty decent shape. Of course, they're under caution.
Absolutely, and they all know that USAC has shortened this thing. As you said, only 11 laps left for 15 total. What was scheduled to be 25, but with all of the upside-down cars and all over the racetrack, I think they made the right decision. No, I know they made the right decision.
They did, because these things don't have headlights on them, so there would be no way we could run them after dark. As Davey Hamilton gets on the throttle down off turn number 4, pace car off, and here he comes again.
Just like a rocket, and trying to stay with him in second. 78 Jeff Helton, 11W Rebel Jackson Jr., 5D Scott Backman, and they're all right side up.
Well, you know, on all justice to these guys, they run on relatively short tracks, half miles and less. And setting one of these things up with 800 horsepower under, what, 1,400-pound race cars is not easy. And there's some very, very skilled drivers out there.
How fast are they going? Within 25 miles an hour of the fastest IndyCar test this year. These things are the second fastest machines of all time to run on this racetrack.
They sure are, and they're very difficult to drive with all that white bias over to the left. So, as everybody says, you just don't want to try to slide them. And everybody tighten those chassis up, I'm sure. And it looks like they're pretty well hooked up now. And don't forget, too, Steve, they were running on a green racetrack for the first few laps. And, so now we got a little rubber down, and everybody gets kind of sorted out, feeling better about things. Uh-oh, trouble!
Oh, instantly, unassisted, Randy Bauer in the 3W car, and that car could be on fire. We saw a flash of flame, and with alcohol methanol fuel, it's very difficult to tell. You have to look for heat waves more than flame itself.
That's right. There is fire coming down off the header and the valve cover, and the caution is out.
Well, this may seem more than a caution before it's all over. He is in the car. He's moving around. He appears to be able to get his helmet off by himself, but he wants out of that car.
Thankfully, he's okay, but boy, he tagged the wall pretty hard, right in the middle of turn number 2.
It looked like maybe something locked up the drivetrain, or a tire went down, or what. It was just instantaneous. Randy had no control over that car. Oh, it's burning pretty good. Oh, yeah. And taking no chances with this kind of a fire. They're just hosing everything down.
They ought to be hosing him down.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they are going to get it out. And looks like he's going to be out all right. Thank goodness for fuel cells and CO2 extinguishers and Nomex uniforms.
Oh, Randy's hurting a bit. There's no question about that. He's dazed. He may have had a little smoke inhalation, or possibly inhaled some of the fumes from that alcohol spill. But here we take a look at it one more time, and at the top part of your screen, he might have got it. Oh, no, he got it loose. He got it loose from out of that third.
Yet another example about how these cars will not tolerate a slide to the outside. They will just come right around on you, and all that weight bias on the inside put him right into the fence.
All right, we're told that Randy is being taken to the infield care center here at Phoenix International Raceway, and we'll let you know his condition when we come back. But all in all, it has been a crash fest here in the Super Modified race. Let's hope we can get it restarted safely. They have fired up the Super Modifieds one more time, circling around for a restart here in the 17th Annual Copper World Classic. I know everyone is hoping that Randy Bauer's okay. Let's check with Ralph Shaheen in the infield.
Randy Bauer has been brought to the infield care center here at Phoenix International Raceway. He is in no serious danger, no broken bones or anything of the kind. He did, however, inhale some fumes in the incident. So the medical staff is going to keep him here for a little bit, keep an eye on him, make sure everything is okay inside his lungs.
All things considered, that's pretty good news for Randy Bauer. Thank you, Ralph. And Brock Yates, we're going to give it one more shot. I'm told now 10 laps remain.
Well, I'm sure Davey Hamilton and the other leaders would like to get this thing over with, as you said. It's been how many restarts? I can't even remember at this point. But consider that the leaders have done an excellent job, and in particular, Davey Hamilton, who qualified here at a wink under 160 miles an hour with a race car designed for short track competition. A phenomenal effort. As he brings them down off turn number 4, one more time, we've got yet another restart.
And again, it's 78 Jeff Helton in the wake of Davey Hamilton. Rebel Jackson Jr. follows into third. And Scott Backman starting to make his move, trying to take the 4th spot away from 6W Troy Rieger. And he does it. up front. A challenge for the second spot. This is the kind of racing we hope to see all along.
Unfortunate about that is these guys now running probably up about 180 miles an hour down the front straightaway. So these cars do fly on the straight, and they work through the corners real well as long as you don't try to slide them.
And they don't seem to be at all intimidated by the grease sweep up there coming out of turn number 4. They just rocket right through it.
Davey Hamilton under control now. He's got himself about a 5-car length lead over Jeff Helton and is unchallenged at this point. So as the field sort of sorts itself out here, let's go down to Ralph, who's got one of the retired drivers in hand.
Brian Schaefer's car is out of the race, and take a look inside the pipes. See that? That is raw alcohol just bubbling up inside, and that's not where it's supposed to be, Brian. What happened?
No, that's not where we'd like to see it. I suspect at this point I either broke a valve or a push rod, something fairly minute but fairly critical in the engine of it. This new Mopar engine, we're doing a lot of new R&D on it. Builds a lot of horsepower, but we're just having a few little problems we've got to overcome. So,
one of the most unique pieces of machinery out of today's event.
Well, Brock, it looks like number 1, Davey Hamilton is pulling away from the field, saying sayonara, adios, bye-bye.
Okay, meanwhile, here is the battle for 7th place. That's the 2U, Kenny Hamilton, Davey's dad, racing against the number 6 car, Pat Abel from Cicero, New York, one of the younger drivers in the field. And right now, Kenny is giving him a little bit of a run, although here comes Abel trying to get underneath him as they head down into turn number 4. And look at Abel. Ooh, he got a little twitchy there, Steve, but he held it in line and got underneath Kenny.
And all in all, a very careful, on tiptoe kind of a pass. These guys were embarrassed by the kind of crashes we saw earlier. They don't want any more of them.
No, they don't. There's a lot of pride with these super modified drivers, and they are collectively a good bunch of people. And good pilots, too. They know what they're doing out here. Don't kid yourself.
I'll tell you what, Pat, he's not happy with just passing Hamilton. He's going after Dan Hayes, the 22W car as well.
So he's moving up pretty well. This is his first time ever at this racetrack, as far as we know, and doing a fine job on a big piece of real estate.
And a piece of real estate, the track president, Buddy Shope, has done a miraculous job with one of the best managed properties in all of motorsports, with a IndyCar race, a Winston Cup race, the Copper World Classic, there's motorcycle events, IMSA events, you name it, it happens here on this gorgeous facility.
Yeah, it's just immaculate. And here we've got a race car down low, a little bit of a smoker. I don't know whether that's going to bring out the caution or not. He may just drop it down in the apron and stay out of the racing line. Let's hope so.
Oh, absolutely, because right now USAC is certainly not paranoid, but there might be just a little overcautious about anything out on that racetrack.
That's right. And these cars are going around here quick enough so you can't take chances. I mean, these really tear around here at 180, 190 miles an hour, and you certainly don't want to hurt somebody with an oily racetrack.
But when they're really hooked up like Pat Abold is right there, what a thrill they have to be to drive. What a G-loading in the corner. Oh, and there is Davey's wife, Susie, with that anxious white kind of beginning applause as he goes on to the last lap.
Oh, yeah. She's only got a little while farther. There's a smoker out there, but it should not hold up this race at this particular point as Davey Hamilton heads down into turn number 3. Get an idea how quick that race car is going now from that angle. And here he comes off turn 4, checkered flag flying, and Davey Hamilton wins it yet again.
No, Davey Hamilton survived the Copper World Classic of 1994. The crew is much relieved to have him home safe, and the Carl of one basis, they are happy to win the race, and they deserve to have a party tonight because he just dominated this thing.
There's young Pat Abel. He got to be pleased with what he did. Started 9th, moved up to 5th. Got himself an early leg on his racing, coming from upstate New York, where he'd be only racing snowmobiles if he wasn't down here in beautiful Phoenix. As Davey Hamilton heads for victory lane, we're going to get a chance to talk with him in a moment.
Well, here are the official results as they're posted. Davey Hamilton, obviously, number 1 was number 1. Jeff Helton, Rebel Jackson Jr. just couldn't quite...